What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. I got myself a guest today, DJ Tommy, in the mix.
Woot, woot. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being on. This is my boy from my other podcast, Mr. Podcast himself, because he's the one that teaches us all kinds of stuff. And he's also my brother-in-law's brother. My brother-in-law, Chris, is the one that got me involved in podcasting. And this is the man that's challenges me and gets me to do a lot of things, especially when it comes to creativity and just learning new stuff. I think we all bounce stuff off each other a lot, but you got the studio and everything, so I call you Mr. Podcast between us.
I got the studio, but I don't yet have the magical formula for content.
Oh,
So
well, that's the hard
I think
part.
we're all looking for that.
Definitely. And I've asked you this before. I don't remember getting the complete actual answer, but how long do you think you have you been actually podcasting?
Well, it all started kind of in the pandemic era,
Okay.
which I think it probably exploded as kind of a pastime. Let me turn off my phone. Yeah, so really where I got started was, I've been doing videography, video editing, shooting music videos and stuff. And when the pandemic hit, I was really big into keeping up with the news, especially with all the riots and everything happening. And one thing I noticed was missing was we live in such a small town, there was no community news. So what I started doing is I started a little channel and I would just gather news from different Facebook groups that were local. And then I would subscribe to newspapers around like East St. Louis and some of the smaller towns that have newspapers that you don't have to pay for, because a lot of them will have subscription fees and stuff, and
Right.
wasn't ready for that yet. So yeah, I would just put together like a couple pages of little stories that I could talk about. And really, I wasn't doing it was just simply telling the story. I wasn't throwing in any opinion. I wasn't like spinning it in any way. It's like if there was a car accident and, two cars and a semi were in an accident, that's what I said. I didn't say, and an out of control semi, just no adjectives, no nothing, just tell what happened. And that was it. And I did that for maybe a couple months, not a lot, not a very long commitment, but I got bored with it only because it was just me.
Yeah.
And one of the downsides of working from home and not working where you live is like, I don't know anybody here. So I don't even know people to to come out and chat with. And so I just kind of put that on pause. And then what I started doing is I started searching for other people locally that were doing podcasts. And that's when I stumbled across these guys in St. Louis that did they did like a weekly vlog podcast thing. And I said, and they had like a really low budget, terrible sound quality setup. Everything was just low budget about it. And I invited them out. I said, hey, no charge or nothing, because for me, it's practice. For you guys, you get to do your thing. And for me, it just helps like perfect my little craft that I'm trying to work into.
The best kind of
practice.
So
yeah. So they started coming out and doing it. And that helped me quite a bit from a producer's perspective. Like, I was not involved in their podcast. I was totally just doing the technical stuff. And then eventually I have a big whiteboard out there. So I would start writing topics on the board for them when they would start to, because when they first started, they were doing like they would drive 45 minutes each way to come out here. Wow. And they were doing like a 30-minute podcast. And I thought, these guys, they need
a little help.
Extend it out to an hour or so. And so I would start writing topics up, kind of neutral topics. And they're both black dudes, like younger. And so, I was just trying to, for their audience, trying to kind of cater the topics to what I thought their audience would like. And yeah,
Yeah.
they did that for a while. And then I don't know what happened. Well, I think they kind of got busy with some other stuff, and then I got busy with stuff, and so it kind of fizzled out. And they've talked about sparking it back up again, but now I'm busy. Like I'm doing podcasts like 4 nights a week.
Multiple podcasts.
Yeah, and so it's like now I don't really have time to come out and have them come out and do the podcast, but we'll see.
Yeah.
If I they're not really the type of people that I would converse with, talk like, especially if we started talking about current events, because they talked about current events, but they I don't know, we'll see.
And they're
But
much younger too, right?
yeah, they are very young. I mean, they're
Yeah.
like college age guys, and so I'm like,
Right.
I have kids that are college age, so
Me too. Yeah, so that's cool. I mean, that's why, you're the guy in our group that gets everybody doing stuff, because you send people in rabbit holes, or you just send something in a chat, and next thing you know, we're all looking it up, trying new things. You got us sending stuff. So just everything you explain there is exactly why I say that about you, because if you're not the person doing it, you're the person encouraging people to do it. So, and I appreciate that, because that's what I need sometimes, that little kick in the ass to get going, and be like, hey, I need to do something different here. I need to get something going. I need to change it up. I need to keep it fresh. And you're always keeping things fresh and changing things, finding new stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much why I keep it going.
yeah. And I think, I mean, it I we enjoy it,
Yeah.
like I can definitely tell you enjoy it. And then like on the other, like one of the other podcasts, the one we did last night with Mike and Joey and Magic's, we all enjoy this kind of form, this kind of way of doing it,
Yeah.
of just communicating with people, sending out a message. I mean, we know it's not hitting millions of people, but it could, and you got to start somewhere. And I was telling my wife the other day, I said, it's not, I mean, my goal is not to like be like some world famous podcaster. It's just something fun to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always looking for, I'm always looking for new ideas. And the thing about the rabbit hole is, now that we got certain people in the crew that have all this free time to go down rabbit holes, we can just wind them up and say, hey, here's an idea, and then
Oh
they
yeah.
can spend 28 straight hours looking at YouTube videos and researching it, and then
You
they
know who
come
you
back and
are.
give us they come back and give us their feedback, and then we don't have to do that. So
Yeah.
that's a kind of a side agenda that I've got there.
Right. Well, hey, it works, because it gets us going, and we find things. Like, I mean, I'm using stuff today that I haven't used before, because of things that I've found, just because somebody will mention this or that, and here we go. But yeah, that's just I mean, as everyone can see, I mean, if you're watching this, he's got the nice mic stand, he's got his background, good lighting, good video. He's always got the good setup, and that's why I'm always like making sure all my stuff is good too, because I want to make sure I'm up there with Tommy. So it's pretty cool, and I appreciate you pushing and doing all that, and hosting stuff, because you're usually the host putting things out there. So you've taught me a lot about how to do that, and that's why I'm here doing this now, because I got involved, and then I just jumped right in, and I'm like, I got to get something going, because podcasting has always been something I've been into, listening nonstop to tons and tons of podcasts. So now it was time to put it in play and actually see if I could do it. So far so good, and hopefully it just gets better.
And it's good not being the host.
I bet, because there's a lot to deal with when you're the host, especially when you got so many people coming in and out, changing scenes and doing different stuff. When you get behind the scenes of stuff, I get nervous all the time starting, like we were talking before I got started here, because I'm just always trying to make sure I have my stuff in order and not screwing anything up, bad audio, not going
Yeah.
live like I meant to. You know, I'm always telling you guys the things I do wrong because I hate it. And the more I say it, the more I hold myself accountable, and I learn from it. And if I keep saying it, I keep thinking I can't do that again and I won't do that again. So that's why I say it all the time. And I say it on here because I like people to know, it's tough and I try my best and I'm always going to make mistakes. But, in the end, I'm just trying to make an overall good, piece of work and to put out there. So,
Yeah. Going live is the best way to learn too, because when you go live, the pressure is on.
right.
And on top of that, when you're not live, there's always the possibility that you're never going to be happy with the finished product. When
yeah.
you have the opportunity to edit and clean things up, you could spend days doing that. You could, and it may just never be right. But when it's live, it's out there. It's
Yeah.
like, it is what it is. And, you just do the best you can. But yeah, you just keep going. And every time you get a little bit better and you learn from the mistakes. So
Definitely. And then even when I don't go live, even when I don't go live and I just record, I've only stopped and restarted one of the instances that I've recorded video. And I stopped and stopped and started again like 4 times. It drove me crazy. And that was when I was out of town.
yeah.
But I still don't edit after that because I'm like, you know what? I want to start and finish and I want to get that out there. Like that's how I want it to be. I don't want to be jump cutting and all this stuff. And I know that that's kind of what people like and people watch and brings people to a channel and it's kind of the way of the land right now. But I don't know. To me, it seems cleaner when you can go straight through, flaws and all, and just put that content out there. So yeah.
Agree.
But anyway, enough about all that podcasting stuff.
Enough of all that history.
What kind of interest do you have in MMA or combat sports in general? Because so far, this is why I have Tommy on today, because over the past, I would say 2 or 3 weeks, he's always interested in my podcast, obviously, because we do a podcast together. So we talk about it. They watch it and they support me. And, and they critique me too, which is awesome because I ask them to and I welcome it. And they'll do it anyway because they're going to tell me what's up because they know that we all look for a certain way to get our content out there. So with all that said, he's been asking questions, good questions lately. And I talked about on my last episode about, maybe cutting something up, putting it on the channel. But I figured next best thing, let's get Tommy on here because he's showing interest and he's got good questions. So, what got you, into all that or, how deep does it go?
I mean, as long as I can remember, I've enjoyed the sport. Uh, especially when the UFC, I think the UFC is probably kind of what brought it into more people's homes. And so, but I did, once I started watching fights on the UFC, um, I went back and then I was watching more of the Strike Force stuff and even, and uh what was the other one? Pride. I mean, some
Pride,
of that
yeah.
stuff was, you're pretty much just watching YouTube videos of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
by the time I was, made aware of those fights, but I did go back, especially with like the Fedor fights.
Oh, yeah.
I would go back and watch all those Fedor fights. Kind of watched his whole history and the what was he, the Emperor? Or, he had
Yep.
a nickname, but
The Last
um,
Emperor.
yeah, and he was like, he was like one of the first like guys I was really like paying attention to. And he at the time, well, I think what was so impressive about him is he just looked so unimpressive.
Oh,
He
yeah.
he looked like the dude that would be like, throwing trash in the back of a trash truck. He just looked like an ordinary guy.
Mr. Dad
And
Bod.
up until the bell went off, he was just like just some very low energy guy.
Somber.
Right. And
Yeah.
just showed no emotion. And then, once the bell rang though, then the fireworks are going off. But yeah, it was just impressive to watch him, low key, and then go in there and wreck things. But yeah, I mean, of course, and I was really into the era of Anderson Silva, and following that, and just kind of, um, at some point you're like, you watch you want to see that fight where he finally loses.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it becomes. Like when you're watching a football team go through an undefeated season, you then start watching, and it's like, okay, I normally wouldn't watch every game, but I'm gonna watch now to see if they lose.
It becomes a
And
sport in itself.
yeah, and almost like he became a villain in a way,
Yeah.
because a lot of the up and comers, um, that he beat, I was like, oh man, I was rooting for the other guy, because I liked a lot of those up and comers, but he put him down. And um and so and there were certain people, can't Rich Franklin. I liked Rich Franklin, but he just could not get past Anderson.
Anderson had
And
his number big time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, one time, can you just do damage at least? Show at least a hint that you might have a chance. But yeah, he never even really was a threat to Anderson.
No, unfortunately.
And so yeah, so it became kind of watching Anderson Silva as a villain, and then keeping up with all that. And then yeah, it's you know I was probably just more of like a couch fan. I didn't know a lot of the history, but over time, you know actually, more recently, I started thinking more about, now that all these different, because I've been watching more Bellator, and then not so much, because there's really not too many, now that I've cut the cord, because when I had cable TV, you could always find something on some like offbeat sports network,
Yeah.
like another MMA, like more of that overseas, or that stuff that just happens in like community centers, or
Like regional
American
stuff.
Legion fights and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I could watch a lot more of that when I had cable, and I think now I probably just have to find it on YouTube or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm interested. I like the entertainment factor of it. I like the, just the matchups, and especially, the era, like when the Connor and Jose Aldo fight, that kind of stuff. The big, the
Big
Brock Lesnar
rivalries.
fights. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were always, pulling me in more and more. And yeah, now I'm more, even though I probably don't keep up as much, I have more interest in some of the other aspects of it. More into like the rules, and the the behind the scenes stuff, like contractual things. Like I was going to ask you some stuff about, cross platform fighting.
Like cross
What?
promotion.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you see that too much in the United States, but you know, or with like with UFC, I don't even know if you see that at all, like, unless,
Mm-mm.
because there's not a lot of freelancers,
Yeah. No,
because
not really. There's only so many organizations that are big, and the UFC just they definitely don't cross promote. At least not now.
yeah,
Nothing's been brought to them that makes them feel like it's worth it because they have such a good product on their own that's so
right.
profitable. So, unfortunately, it'd be nice to see some inter promotion fights between, just kind of to see who really is the best bantamweight, the best heavyweight, the best, whatever you want to call it. I think it would be great to have something like that happen, but yeah, the UFC is not into that right now. So maybe further down the line, if Dana White ever, jumps out of it. But as of now, that doesn't look like that's going to happen for a long time, if ever.
It might take just such a mega stud in another promotion to get Dana White's attention to
Yeah,
even, entertain the idea.
right.
Like, because I was looking at the rankings earlier, and I noticed, like, I think it was in, I forgot what division, but like, the number 3 person in one of these divisions, and this was an independent ranking, just an overall MMA, maybe like a pound for pound thing. But the number 3 person was not UFC; it was Bellator.
Okay.
So the ranking was like 1 through 20, and I think the number 3 guy was Bellator, and like the number 14 guy was Bellator. Everybody else was UFC. So
Yeah.
they clearly have the dominant talent. But
Right.
yeah, if someone were to come along, like if that number 1 person was Bellator, then
That's
Dana White would probably have to be like, all right, who's this guy? How do we get this guy? He'd probably just try to poach him,
yeah.
instead of trying to do a cross match, a cross promotion. But
Well, you spoke about Fedor. That's actually one of the most infamous little things that happened that didn't happen. They're trying to get Fedor over to fight in the UFC. Even if, I think it was just going to be like a one-off, and they tried, and they actually thought they had him for a second, and then things went south. More money was being asked for. It was all kinds of demands and stipulations and all this other stuff. So that's probably the closest real big fight at the time that might have happened, and it just didn't come through, which is sad because it would have been nice to see Fedor fight some of the guys that were big in the UFC back in the day when they were trying to get this done. But unfortunately, it didn't happen.
yeah, and like just thinking back to like memorable moments, or like some of the GSP fights, like Matt Hughes, and I think over time though the GSP fights, there was one where a guy came over from another promotion. I can't remember his name, but he was like a stud in another organization. Then he came and fought GSP, and it went 5 rounds. GSP won by decision.
Yeah.
and that's kind of how GSP became. It's like, all right, there's not going to be a finish in this fight.
Right.
The other person's not going to knock him out, and they're not going to do enough damage to him to win a decision. But GSP's not going to knock him out either. So, those eventually kind of fizzled out. The GSP fight, where it used to be like a hot ticket for us, it wasn't so much. Over time, it was like, all right, yeah, we know that's just going to be a decision.
He was exciting in the beginning, but
right.
That's why they called him George Rush St. Pierre, because he'd come out like with the Fury, but then he got knocked out by Matt Serra and lost the belt, and then he came back, won the belt back, and then pretty much fought safe from there, because I don't think he liked the fact that he lost the belt like that, and that he knew he was vulnerable to something like that. So then he learned how to be more technical and learned how to be more defensive. So, like you said, nobody could knock him out because they couldn't get to him, or and his wrestling was like ridiculously good.
Oh yeah,
so
takedown defense was crazy.
Yeah, nobody could take him down, and he would just wrestle people against the cage and hold them there, or take them down, and but he wouldn't do crazy damage because he didn't want to leave himself open. Hendricks, Johnny Hendricks, is the only one that really put hands on him, and a lot of people think Hendricks won that fight. But if there's pictures everywhere you can see of GSP's face just beat to shit, but he still came out the winner because he didn't get finished. And yeah, it sucks that GSP kind of fell off that way, even though he came back and won. What was it? Against Bisbing, came back and won the next weight up. I always get him middleweight, welterweight, but yeah, when he did that, that was cool because that was actually a pretty exciting fight. But it was still kind of the same outcome, and wound up in a decision, and he won. And yeah,
yeah, and that thing about the, I kind of agree with that mentality. In a championship fight, I feel like I was never a big fan of a decision. I don't know. That was just one weird thing, like one just philosophy I had, I guess, that probably not too popular, but I just thought if you're going to take a belt from someone, it should be a decisive, it should be a finish.
yeah.
That was just one thing I always thought. Maybe that was when I was younger, but
A lot of people feel that way. I mean,
Yeah,
you either
'cause
have to You either have to be extremely dominant in every fashion, but and if it goes to the end and nobody gets a finish, it's just obvious that this person won, or a knockout
Yeah.
or a submission, you know. But a lot of people feel that way. But you know, technical fighters take it to the
Yeah.
end, and sometimes it's boring. That's just how it goes, I guess.
Yeah. That's true. Especially when you get into the bigger weight classes. I mean, if they even make it that far, which a lot of them don't, like
Right.
heavyweight fights, even light heavyweight, they're typically not going 5. But yeah, by the later, even by the third round, a lot of those guys are gassed.
Oh yeah.
And so the last 3 rounds are just going to be painful to watch. And
Yeah. Heavyweight fights that go 5 rounds, you know, there's not much to be said about all
yeah,
that.
they'll just be taking turns laying on top of each other is what it'll boil down to.
Pretty much.
But yeah, those first 2 rounds though, I mean, there's so much anticipation, especially watching a heavyweight fight, because all it takes is just one mistake, or one glancing blow. You see some of those replays on knockouts and it's like, wow, that was just, it was just not, it didn't even look like a solid hit, but hit them in the right spot, the temple or the chin or whatever, and they're just sleeping.
Oh yeah.
And that's the excitement, that's what you want to see.
Then you get those
So
fights when people shit the bed. Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, probably one of the worst heavyweight fights ever. And Ngannou is like a insane power hitter. I mean, what he did to Overeem, the way that he
yeah,
knocked his head back with that uppercut, looked like he was about to snap his head off. And to watch him do something like that and then come back to what he did with Derek Lewis is insane. It's like, what just happened here? I can never get that time back in my life.
yeah, yeah, because for the most part, like watching him come up, I mean, he was just like a freight train. Like
Yeah.
he just always looked unstoppable. And he always had the same approach. Like he just bum rushed, and it's usually over within like the first minute.
Yeah.
And then and then that first time he fought Stiope, uh
Stipe.
Stipe Miocic.
There you
Um
go.
yeah, and then he got into that wrestling, and then just couldn't figure it out.
No.
Because I think he just wasn't using his normal. I think he tried to be too careful and try some different approach. But then I think the second time they fought, boom, freight train
Yeah.
just went right at
Because
him.
he had some confidence in that wrestling. Like he learned some
Yeah,
stuff. And I think he surprised Stipe, and that's probably why he got
yeah,
that win. Because he Stipe didn't know how to take what just happened. He's got this massive
yeah,
marauder coming at him that actually knows a little bit what to do with wrestling this time, instead of Stipe just throwing him around.
yeah. I think if that's your strength, just go with it because
Yeah.
you know because I was really expecting him to win that the first time they fought. I mean, I was a Stipe fan, so I was glad he won, but I was expecting him to lose.
Yeah.
And so the second time they fought, I just I don't know, it just seemed like a whole different vibe, and I just felt like, yeah, this one is not going that same way. This one's going to go a different way. And sure
Yeah.
enough,
Stipe got into some wars, and Ngannou learned how to wrestle. That's a bad
yep,
combination when you're the champ and you think you're going into a fight where the last time you were dominant and he couldn't do anything. And you come back to that, it's like, oops.
yeah. But looking at the fights coming up on Glory, um, Alistair and what's his name, Botter?
Butter Hari, yeah.
Yeah, that dude. I was watching some of I was watching their first 2 fights, and in the first fight, it looked like Overeem was a beast, like
Hmm.
just towering over him
He was
for some
Ubering.
reason. But in the second fight, it looked like Badr was bigger.
Yeah.
It was weird, and that was like 1 year apart,
Right. Yeah. I
which
mean, we should just get into it because that's actually the first thing we got here to talk about. Um, is I'll bring the card up because the main fight is who you're talking about, Badr Hari versus Overeem, and then the rest of these. I do know the co-main event, um, but the man the fight here for sure is Hari versus Overeem because like you said they're 1-1, and that's because of what happened in the first fight with Overeem just came out and was insane. And that's because that was what they called Ubereem because everyone says he was on the sauce. And I mean, he just looks like a goddamn, I don't even know, like a god of something. But
looked like the Hulk,
yeah, he
like
does.
a
He definitely
like
looks
a
like the
light
Hulk.
skinned Hulk.
Yeah. And then in MMA it was the same thing. That's he came out and was just insane with the striking and the ground and pound and the power in his punches, the crazy like fast ground and pound.
Mhm.
And and he's just athletic as hell. So for a big dude to come at you like that, that's some scary shit.
He's
So
fun to watch because it's not going to be a boring fight with him.
exactly.
And for the most part, someone's getting knocked out. And a
And
lot of times it's him because
that's
he seemed to have a weak a glass jaw, I guess they say.
right.
Because when he'd get hit, most times he was getting dropped. Uh, who in Strike Force, there were a couple where it did. I mean, of course, it goes. When you watch it in real time, sometimes you don't even see the hit. It's like what just dropped. Like even that second fight with Badr.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't even see it the first time. I'm like, he just like fell. It's like, what happened?
What's funny is I actually have some stuff here for you. Uh Let me get to the first fight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
there he is with that uppercut in that knee.
And
Nasty
look at the size
combinations.
difference. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
this to me, the size difference is like it don't even look like they would be in the same fighting class.
Right. And it's not like Badr Hari's tiny. I mean, he's tall, but he's kind of lanky. He's got that somewhat of, I don't want to say slender body, but he's definitely not yoked like Overeem is. But
Yeah.
he's a beast too, man. Badr Hari is a legend in
Yep.
kickboxing for a reason, and that's because he's done a lot of shit. And just watching Overeem do this to him, and this wasn't even the finishing like combination. This isn't what finished him, but this is what led to the finish. And just
Right.
it's what gets people to that point where you can't take anymore. You get dropped like that. I mean, at least in kickboxing, you see Alistair go after him while he's going down, and that's because he's used to MMA at the same
Yep.
time. So they have to distinguish the difference between whether they can follow up those shots on the ground or if they gotta back up. And of course, the ref's gonna
Yeah.
jump in on this because it's kickboxing,
Right.
and they got to give him the 10 count. But he gets up but he gets he gets killed when he gets back
Right.
up. So, and this was Overeem at his best right here. And
Yeah.
he stayed in that for a while, but he did drop off.
And part of the animosity here was kind of some trash talking between kickboxing and MMA.
Yeah.
And so of course Overeem was basically saying MMA is the better combat sport, and Badr was saying it was kickboxing. And so after this fight, I guess what I was seeing, what I was reading is they were supposed to I guess it was maybe like informal conversation or whatever, but they were supposed to alternate, like they were supposed to do a kickboxing and MMA,
Yeah.
one each at least.
But no one
But
ever
after
does.
this fight, Badr did not, he wouldn't agree to do an MMA fight. So then Overeem just agreed to do another kickboxing fight.
And then this happened. Bam. Head kick.
Yep.
So yeah, the punch that you're saying that you don't even see is actually a left like uppercut, I think, or a left hook that catches
Yeah.
him. That's what stumbles him, and then Badr Hari throws that kick, and that kick is what got Overeem and ended that fight right there. So this actually was the ending sequence. But before this, he got dropped by an uppercut and laid flat on the canvas, like I'm talking timber type flat. But you know, he probably got woken up as he hit the ground because I could have swore he was out on the way down when he caught that uppercut. But he just turned around, flattened out, got back on his knees right away, let the count come up, and then he got up and got this happen to him. So that sucks.
He seemed Overeem seemed very different in that second fight.
Yeah.
He didn't have the aggressiveness, and again, Badr just looked like a different person. He was like more filled out. He somehow he seemed taller. Like even now looking at that,
He
it
does.
looks like he towers over Overeem. But if you look at the first fight, Overeem seems to be the one towering over him.
Yep.
So I don't know if they like swap shoes or something.
I think
But,
Badr did get a little bigger for the second fight, probably because he felt that
Yeah.
strength and that power from Overeem, and he's like, I got to pack on some muscle so I can take some of this. Or you
Yeah.
know, he just had revenge on his mind, so he let that
Yeah.
drive him.
Motivate.
But yeah,
But
you know,
I do think that Overeem, when I watched that second fight, I thought something's very different about Overeem. Like he is just not going after it like he was in the first fight. And I don't know, like if there was something leading up to this fight, you know, where maybe he wasn't fully like 100% or something. But
yeah,
like, yeah, when you watch the beginning of this second fight, I mean, it's only 50 seconds in. It's a very short fight, but it just doesn't have the same energy from Overeem that he did in that first fight.
right.
So I was like, man, are they just going for the trilogy or what? But of course, this was in 2009. So
Yeah,
if they were going for the trilogy, they didn't do a great job of capitalizing on it.
and here's the thing, you know, they're doing it now because Overeem, he has suffered a lot of KOs and a lot of losses in MMA. And, you know, he had a good run in the UFC, but after what happened to him with Ngannou, it was kind of like, man, game over, bro. You need to like, you need to rethink some stuff here. But, you know, his first thing was always kickboxing. That's where he started to, you know, catch his fame. And then he went over to MMA and spent a long time there, lots of fights. And, you know, like I said, he started, you know, getting to that point where he's getting a lot of losses on his record. Then he'd come back and get a good win or, you know, just a decent win and then drop a bunch of losses again. But, you know, they're throwing him up against killers in the heavyweight division. So, you know, there's only so much of that an older guy can handle. So now he's back with glory. You know, the first fight was in K1, and then I believe this second fight was actually in glory. But it's like a glory K1 type, like it transitioned its way into glory. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird way that all happened. But kickboxing just never really caught on that much in America, at least. Glory's probably the most it's been since K1, as far as like popularity.
I think that kicking is just not. Americans are not big fans of kicking.
Right.
You know, like they're not big fans of soccer.
True.
They're not big fans of kickboxing. But, you know, speaking of having some L's lately, Badr has not had a win since 2015.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
So he's on a drought too. Now he hasn't fought too much. I think he's maybe had like a half dozen fights since 2015.
Yeah.
But he went through a little drought. So, but you know, another interesting thing is these guys are actually friends now.
Yeah. Yeah. I listened to an interview with them on the MMA Hour podcast, and Ariel Helwani's kind of a shit stirrer, so he's trying to get them to go at each other a little bit, and he did. He kind of got them there where they was just like, well, you know, you don't want to. I may be friendly now, but when we get in that ring, it's going to be different, and so it only got to about there. But and Overeem's talking to Badr Hari is like, you know, you might need to rethink some stuff here. You've fallen on some hard times, and I've been there, and it might be time to rethink stuff." And then he goes, "Yeah, but wait till after the fight and see if you're still saying that." It's like, oh shit, okay, but that's about as far as it went.
Yeah. They probably know that there has to be some marketing.
Right.
They got to put on somewhat of a show to get some people. I don't know. Is it a pay-per-view thing? I don't know how Glory works.
Yeah, that's a damn good question. I don't think it is. A lot of these, they don't really do pay per view that much. They're usually like, if anything, it's on an app for like a couple bucks to watch the
Okay.
fight or something. That's how some of these are. Some of them get into big pay per views, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure how this one works. Um, Unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. That's how a lot of these promotions are too, though. They don't do the best promotion, like promoting as far as Bellator is the worst of having everybody know how to
Oh
watch
yeah.
it and where to watch it, what time it's going to be on. Half the time they're showing a replay, so
Yeah.
I don't even know, man. Glory is cool, and I like kickboxing because it's a part of MMA, and Alistair came from kickboxing, and you can't deny it. There's a lot of guys that came from kickboxing and started there, so uh, but just to follow it a lot, a part of this card, we kind of skipped over that, but Tiffany Van Soest is fighting. She's the co-main, and she's a champ right now. Tiff
Yep.
Time Bomb. She it's a super bantamweight, which for them is 115. So in MMA, or I should say in the UFC, 115 is a straw weight. So they call it super bantamweight. But anyway, she's a beast, and she's 33 years old, and she's fighting a 22-year-old. But I have no doubt that she's probably going to tear her apart. I was watching
Yeah.
her last fight, and her last fight was nasty. Spinning back kicks to the body. That's how she ended that fight, which was pretty crazy because right before that, she head kicked the girl and dropped her, but the girl got up, which is, I mean, she's a beast for that. She was taking shots left and right, nasty uppercuts. But yeah, Tiff dropped her with the spinning back kick to close to the liver. I don't think it really was an exact liver kick, but damn, it was nasty.
I was surprised that they have her up against Sarah because it does. I mean, Sarah just doesn't seem to have the resume for it, the
Mm-mm.
experience at all. And her last fight might have even been a loss. That's why I was pretty surprised that they would have her go against the champ,
You can't
unless
really
she's just
find
running through everybody. Yeah,
you can't really
unless
find
she,
much on her.
yeah,
I was trying to look for info, and like even on the matchups, it like they don't even give a weight, like what weight she's at, like her exact weight. They won't even give it. So it's like, well, I looked at two different websites and I couldn't find a lot. Her last name is Musadek. I guess she's Canadian.
I think she's
Um,
French.
oh, French. I'm sorry. You're right. French. But yes, I couldn't find a lot on her. So it was like, yeah, I don't know where this is gonna go because she's not even ranked. That was the first thing I noticed. It said
Right,
unranked. I'm like, unranked going against the champ.
champ. Yeah.
So either Tiffany Time Bomb just ran through the division and they're
Mhm.
just getting what could possibly be a prospect, or maybe they just don't have a deep roster, and so she
That could
doesn't
be
have
it.
much. But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, if you're gonna watch Glory, I would say definitely watch that co-main along with this fight, of course, Badr Hari and Alistair, because I mean these guys are legends in general. So I'm sure Badr Hari doesn't have long before he's gonna retire, and Alistair, I'm sure, wants to probably get a couple good wins under his belt and maybe some paydays, and then get out too. He's flirted with retiring for a few years now, so I
He's
think he
been in it
knows
so long. I
so
mean,
long and so many
he's been
fights.
in it forever. I can't
Yeah.
even remember a time where he wasn't, in my years of consciousness,
Yeah.
remembering a time where he was not an MMA fighter. Yeah, you have to go back really way back. But
And before
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say I gotta check with my homie at work. He's got ties to Tiffany,
Okay.
out of her training camp. And so I'm gonna message him tomorrow at work and find out if he's got info on how to watch that fight. I'm sure we could dig it up, but
Yeah.
I'll just because I haven't talked to him in a while, so I'll just give him a little shout out and acknowledgement that I'm keeping tabs on his girl out there.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to find a way. I'm gonna at least, I'm gonna at least be looking for those highlights because like I said, I watched her last fight, and I know she's a beast. I've heard about her for quite a while now, and a lot of the podcasts I listen to will talk about kickboxing in the background. There's a couple in general that talk about Glory for sure because they have people in their little circle that have actually worked for Glory. So that's how I heard of a lot of people like Israel Adesanya was a part of Glory, and that's how I first heard of him. And all I kept hearing was this guy's going to come to MMA and he's going to wreck people. And I was just like, all right, all right. And I kept remembering because his name, they call him the last style bender. So they would always refer to him as style bender. So, you hear that, you hear a name like that, and you're just like, yeah, this is something I want to follow.
Yeah,
So a
he's
lot
got a
of
cool
people
name.
come.
That's part of the whole aura is you got to have a
Right.
cool name.
Definitely. Yeah. So, if you're watching Glory, you better make sure you catch those.
Do you know where the fight is? Where is this going to be held? The event?
That's, man, you know what? I can look real fast because I actually have a screenshot because of the fact that I wanted to remember. Okay, wherever. Oh man, I guess it doesn't say. Wow,
Secret location.
this is what I'm saying.
It's like the Kumite.
Right? If you look, I mean, if you see any promotion for the UFC, you're going to see the time, the date, where to watch, where it's taking place, and who's on the card. And if there's any belts, you're going to see that on the top of the card. You know what I mean? And then, so for this, it's like Jack's Casino and Sports and Fairtex. Fairtex is a brand that is big in kickboxing. They make gear and bags and stuff like that. So it's always been around. Jack's Casino and Sports. I don't know if that's a sponsor or if that's maybe where the venue is. I don't know. This is the problem with some of this stuff. And I'm looking, I mean, this is the only thing on both of the promotional like posters I've seen. It says Glory, it says Who, and it says Jack's Casino and Fairtex. That's it. So it's tough, man. Okay. But I'm sure we could dig it up, But like I said, Bellator and these other promotions, they just do not promote like they should.
Right.
I mean, that should be some of the prominent things on every visual that you put out there. So yep. I don't get it.
Yeah, and it's not hard to do. Just create a flyer and make it a web page or make it a YouTube video or something, or put it on TikTok. There's tons of way to get free promotion.
And people talk a lot of shit about the UFC posters and how shitty they are sometimes, but they have fights every week. Like how you're going to run out of ideas. But regardless of any of how shitty it is or how simple it is or anything like that, you're going to know, again, those things on the list, where it's taking place, what time, what country, state, city, whatever all that is, and who's going to be on the card. You're always going to know. And if you Google it, you're going to find out real fast. So some of these other ones you got to dig.
On that card, there was one other fight that might be interesting, and it's this dude, Petch. He's a little guy, but I watched a couple of his fights, and he is always smiling. but he's a badass. He's got some really long, like Vietnamese name or something.
Yeah.
Pecha Parang or something. But yeah, that dude is always just
let's see. I'm trying to see.
Bottom
Petch, there you go. Yeah. Actually, yeah, I've heard of him before. See, I mean, look at some of these guys' names, man. Bestati and Court. Oh my God, that's I wouldn't even know how to say that.
Not a lot of Americans on the card.
No. Yeah, so we're looking at, I mean, that's French. What's that? Is that, I don't even know what that is. That's, who cares, man? I can't even.
The dude that Petch is fighting, that's the Mexican flag.
Yeah, I was going to say, I only recognize the Mexican flag. That's how the dude, one championship is tough, man. Yeah, I like those names. I try to listen and I try to figure out how to say these names, but it is, I mean, I don't know. I got to take some
Yeah,
lessons or something.
That Petch dude's name, they said it like 100 times and I still couldn't figure out how to say it. So, but that's what
Yeah.
they did is they would just say Petch like in the
Yep.
bottom corner. And
That's
so,
like Habib Nurmagomedov. People call him
yep.
Habib, Khabib. Either way, they just say his first name because they're like, I can say that. Nurmagomedov is tough. I've said it so much because he's one of my favorite fighters, and I've heard from so much about him that I've figured out how to say it, and then now I know how to say it, so I can say it easily. But like
Yep.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk, when she was still fighting, everyone would ask me how to say her name because she was a champ for a while, back and forth, always involved in big fights. So everyone would always be like that. Joanna girl, what's her last name? I don't know. They call her JJ. They're like Jutter Kanchek. I don't know how to say it. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, that's the homework you got to do is figure out how to say the names. But
right.
looking at Tiffany and Sarah Musadak, uh, Sarah Musadak is also very short. So that's another I don't know how tall she's going to be in comparison with Tiffany, but I was watching one of Sarah's fights and this other girl was probably a foot taller than her.
Yeah.
But in that fight, Sarah was just going at it like sneaking under her punches and her kicks and
Hmm.
just attacking. So she did well in that fight, but then she fought this other lady who I think had been a former champ, and at the time I think she might have been the number 3 contender or something. And then so Sarah lost that fight. But yeah, I just that's going to be a weird matchup. I don't know if it's going to be that much of a challenge
See,
for Van Soest.
yeah, going back to what I was looking at earlier that I told you I couldn't. So here's the thing: it says ranking unranked, pro record at fight, NA, just says kickboxing.
Hmm.
So it's like, what? And then it says she's 5'5", and it says Van Soest is 5'4".
Wow.
So
Okay. Well,
yeah,
she must have just been fighting,
someone way
like
bigger,
an Amazon woman or something,
right? And then it's
because
for
that girl was
reach.
way taller.
For reach, they got Tiffany's reach at 64 inches NA when it comes to Musadek. So,
Hmm.
and this is from Tapology. This isn't just some stupid website. Tapology's
Yeah.
pretty well known. So, I don't know, man. Let's see. Event Glory Collision for Saturday, October 8th. Enclosure ring. Oh, it's in the Netherlands.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
So,
where Overeem's from.
yeah, that is where. Yep. And then yeah, that's it doesn't tell you how to watch it. The venue is Geller Dome. Yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know. Anyway,
Never been there.
yep. But yeah, so Glory Kickboxing. It's
I'll try to
interesting.
catch
It's
it.
fun.
Oh wait, when is that? Saturday night?
Yeah, Saturday.
I'm gonna be DJing.
Oh, really?
I got a DJ homecoming.
Homecoming. Nice. All right. Well, this is the thing. Oh, okay. So I didn't really say this because we just got into talking, but there is no UFC this weekend again for like the second time in a month, and that never happens. So I don't know. It's been weird. Even some of the podcasts, maybe because the UFC has had time off, some of the podcasts I listen to that never take time off are taking time off. So I'm
Wow.
like, no time off here. I got to keep my at least once a week. So then we talk about other stuff, and that's what I said from the get go. I'm going to be talking about all combat sports. So even getting into celebrity boxing, Jake Paul. I mean, he's fighting real matches now, and he's considered a professional. That's what his bouts have been considered, at least one of them. So yeah, I mean, I'll just cover all this stuff. So there's got to be something. There's never a weekend where there's absolutely nothing. This is the closest.
Now there was going to be another big fight this weekend that you had mentioned,
Yes,
which
that's
was
what.
just canceled.
What? You got to be kidding me! This boxing fight right here, this got canceled. When
Yep.
did you find that out?
A few hours ago,
Ah, well, there we go.
because one of them tested positive for something.
Oh, you don't know who?
I think it was Ben.
That's a damn shame because I was actually looking forward to that. I'm like, I don't watch boxing. I mean, and see, this. Here we go. The Zone pay-per-view. It tells you how to watch it, so that's good. It doesn't tell you where it's happening. I don't think it's pretty small. Anyway, uh, yeah, those are all sponsors at the bottom, promotions. But yeah, at least they tell you where to watch it and that it's a pay-per-view. But it's not
Right.
happening now, so who gives a shit? And that sucks just because they could have made this could have been big because there's nothing else happening besides Glory. And Glory's not that big. Boxing's pretty big in the US, whether it's an
Yeah.
fight overseas with international fighters or whatnot. And these guys have history. That's why it's called Born Rivals, because both their dads fought each other. Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn. So they fought
Yeah.
twice before, and Eubank Sr. won the first fight. But I guess they
And this
came
was
to
in London. This was really big.
yeah,
This was going to be a huge event in London.
yeah. Man, I can't. I didn't even know either, and I'd been looking because I thought I had seen something about some one of the Glory fights getting canceled, but I misread. So, but I didn't see this. So good on you. Thanks for bringing that to my attention because I didn't know. That's a damn
Yeah, and
shame.
I was watching an interview. I think it was Eubank Jr. They were asking him too about YouTube boxers, like coming in and just getting instant kind of celebrity out of it, and but he had no problem with it himself because his take is boxing, it's you got the old school audience, the old school generation who was really into boxing, but it kind of, I guess there was like some corruption and stuff going on in some of the promotions, and it was
Always.
really taking a dive from like it was a very mainstream thing at one time, and now it's almost starting to take a backseat to the UFC, and so he's just thankful that you got people actually interested in boxing now. And if it's because of these YouTube kids, he's like, we'll take it. He ain't mad at that. And like some of the old school, diehards, they don't like this, all these YouTube kids coming up and just saying they're boxers. But, he's just like, whatever brings attention back to the sport, it's good for the sport. So I kind of
Yeah.
agree with that.
Definitely, they're keeping eyes on it, they're keeping attention on it, and
Yep.
any press is good press sometimes, unless your damn fight gets canceled, and then it's not good because the fight's not happening. God damn it. But yeah, no, I mean that's why I don't like Jake Paul that much. I've grown to a little bit more respect for him for some of the things he's done. We'll see what happens with this Anderson Silva fight because that's tough, especially with the way Silva looked against Cesar Chavez Jr. Like he whooped his ass. There's just no way
Yeah.
around it. He just worked him. And I know Chavez Jr. isn't like his dad, but he's definitely, he's a pro and he's had plenty of fights and, may not have the best record, but he's still the son of a superstar legend. So,
Right.
he has the skills, whether he's
Yep.
kind of a half-asser or not, but Anderson just worked his ass. So,
Yeah, I mean Anderson's a legend, but speaking of Anderson and going back to Botter, Botter beat him.
oh yeah, but I don't
Wait, I mean
remember.
like decades ago.
Yeah, I don't in kickboxing, right?
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
in 2012.
yeah. I couldn't remember. That was in K1. I think so
I
because
think so, yeah.
Anderson's fought everywhere. He fought everywhere,
Yeah.
doing everything. So I'm not surprised. And for him to have fought Botter, I mean, they're definitely from the same kind of era.
Right.
So, and Badr Hari beating him, and a lot of people beat Anderson outside of MMA, but as soon as he caught that just wind that took him, it was it
Yep.
was it was impressive as hell. I mean, the way he lost sucked. I was in Vegas when he lost that first time against Chris Weidman, and we were watching it because we were there for the UFC Fan Expo, and yeah, of course the fights are happening there too. But obviously, I wasn't gonna go. That's like their biggest fights of the year, and so I took the kids to the Fan Expo, and we got to meet all kinds of fighters. I got
Okay.
to talk to all kinds of people, and I saw guys just in passing that I got to stop and talk to. So that was like I had the time of my life because I'm just like this was at the height of me being a fan. This is when I just hit that top side. So and then I was big into the tap out, obviously. I used to wear tap out shirts all the time. So I met the guys from tap out and stuff. So all of that was so cool, man. I got pictures. We met Chuck Liddell. It was badass. We waited in line
Yeah,
for like
that's
two
I've
hours.
heard about those events. I mean, it's just everybody is just, just meshed together. I mean, everybody's there and everybody is just available. You can just mingle with everybody, and
Yeah.
the UFC stars and all the people in the industry are just mingling with everybody. And yeah, I hear it's a real cool event. I never went, but I heard from people that went, and they just said you just see everybody, and they stop and take pictures with you, or
Yep.
shake your hand and stuff, and it's just a cool event.
The hardest guys to get to, well, we waited for Chuck Liddell because both the kids knew who he was and they loved him. And I was like, I'm not missing my chance. So we
Yeah.
got to meet him. And my younger daughter was like, I just became a black belt in Taekwondo. And he was all congratulating her and holding her up and stuff. It was so cool. But yeah, the hardest ones were him. And then John Jones was there. It was tough to get around him. But I saw him from afar, kind of a little way, like 10 feet away. And then I couldn't even get that close to GSP. I mean, the line for him was like somebody told me they were in line for 6 hours. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. But there was a
Now,
lot of people there.
is that before he was fighting the Avengers?
Yeah, definitely. This was at the height of his superstardom in the UFC. I think it was what 2013.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds right.
yeah, that was when we went. And then I saw Mike Tyson in passing. Like he literally passed right by me. I got a cool
Yep.
picture of him. I didn't get to see him because everybody's just holding everybody back from him.
Yeah,
So
he's a huge UFC fan.
yeah, definitely. But that was cool. That was a cool event. Yeah. So much for this fight, man. That makes me sad. I'm glad you told me though, because I didn't even know. And I had been looking out for stuff, but there's fights like this. It's not in my realm, but I see things all the time from
Yeah.
these outside fights and the boxing, especially the big boxing matches like this one was supposed to be. But yeah, I mean,
The worst part too is the undercard fights, because a lot of those people aren't getting big checks.
nah,
Eh, If they might even just be breaking even. And when this fight gets canceled, I mean, I don't know how that works for them, because they were announced, like one of the promoters, Hearns or somebody, was announcing, he's like, we'll set up a site where you can go to get your refunds and stuff on these tickets. We're going to reschedule it at some point, but uh, so if they're giving refunds, that means they can't possibly be paying those undercard people,
nah.
because I mean, they wouldn't have the money to give them. And so, yeah, I feel bad, because yeah, those guys are just, they're probably scraping together every dollar they have to, to get through their camps, and, you know, to travel, if they got to travel, to get to these things.
Not to mention
It would
all
just
the
suck.
hard work they put in to their fight
Yep.
camp, just trying to
Yeah.
peak at the right time. All of their training partners that they were able to get. And so it's like, I mean, now you have to reschedule. Now you don't know when the next time is going to be you're going to fight. Like,
Plus people are going to now hesitate to pull the trigger on, buying those tickets or making those travel arrangements,
yep.
because there's just going to be that seed of doubt, like, uh, we'll just watch this one on TV, I guess.
And this is some of the tough stuff that happens with boxing. They finally, they'll take forever to get the big matches together. The people that should be fighting each other wind up fighting 3 to 6 years later. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, way later than they should have fought. So you don't know how it should have gone or it could have gone, and then it takes so long, and then something stupid like this happens. Somebody tests positive,
Yeah.
or somebody gets caught for something else. It's like, come on, man. And it happens way too much in boxing, and that's why boxing
Yeah.
fell off some. They say boxing is never going to die. If Jake Paul keeps bringing attention to boxing and stuff like that, as long as it's not strictly celebrity boxing and crazy circus fights that makes it look like a circus all the time, and they keep up, the professional boxers keep up the big fights, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, people like that keep doing it, Anthony Joshua, they can keep going. They're keeping their
Yeah.
end up at the moment. It's
Do you
definitely
remember
fades out.
Uriah? You remember Uriah Hall? I think he's going into boxing.
Yeah, he's fighting.
And I don't know if that's considered a celebrity match. He's going to be fighting an ex-NFL player, I think.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what that's considered, because this is kind of in that realm of Jake Paul fighting. Like he has these matches, like this whole fight card of people with, different. So I don't know what to consider. I don't know how it's classified or what it's considered, because Uriah Hall's a professional fighter in general. So, but Le'Veon Bell has had a fight before in boxing, and he won. So I don't know, like, what is it considered a professional match or not? I'm not sure, but RIP to this fight because it's not happening. Damn it. Anyway, some other stuff I wanted to go over is this past weekend, those MMA fights, there was a lot of stuff going around about. I'm not sure if you saw anything about it with the venue not allowing fans and media in to the Apex in Vegas.
Yeah, I was asking you like why it was so dead in there.
Yeah. And that's because Mark Zuckerberg was in attendance. So pretty much there was rumors going around that he rented out the venue, that pretty much like he wanted it to himself. But that from what I'm hearing, that's not the case. It was kind of the UFC's, like, it was kind of a mutual thing where they didn't want to have people running up to him, or, because Mark Zuckerberg has just recently got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he's like really doing it too. I actually saw some clips of him rolling, and he was on Rogan talking about it as well. And he actually does know his shit. Like from what I heard him talking, he actually does know some shit. So that's good. And Rogan says it's, Rogan doesn't usually talk like he doesn't just make shit up just to make somebody feel good. So, he said he knows his shit and that he looked pretty good and looks like he knows what he's doing. So, of course.
Well, when you got billions of dollars, you should be in shape, and you should be taking care of yourself like that. And you should, especially with all the death threats I'm sure he gets.
Oh yeah.
He should have probably been doing this years ago, but it seems like a weird combination, just thinking about kind of the ideologies of those people. Like Dana White clearly has a different bias of where he leans, and then Zuckerberg has a bias that is kind of well known, and so to have them all kind of in like the same realm seems like an odd mix,
Right.
but hey, you know what, that's what it takes though. I think if we get more of that, then maybe some barriers can be knocked down.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the fighters had that same mentality, like, hey, it's good that Zuckerberg was here because it just brings more eyes to the sport, brings attention. But, there's a lot of people that brought up good points as well on the opposite side, which is a lot of the fighters didn't get to have their families around, their friends. The Apex doesn't hold too many people. I think it's like 300 or something like that. So it's not a normal arena like T-Mobile or something. But, they still get to have people there, and they couldn't because of this. And also they didn't get, like, the media's not there. So they don't get like the media scrums after the fact. They don't get to, get asked questions. They kind of have all that taken away from them. So it's a bit of a different type of thing Brendan Schaub went in hard on it. He was just like, why is everybody here sucking off Zuck? He was so mad that they kept calling him Zuck. And I'm just like, dude, it's not a big deal. But he did bring up some of those good points, and the fact that, when you set this precedent that you're going to, go ahead and just clear everybody out for certain people to be in there, it kind of sucks. And like, you can't do that when it comes to the big fights. And what if he wants to come to a big fight? Are you going to tell him, suck it up, bro? We'll get as much security around you as possible, but we're going to have everyone here. How are you going to make up for that gate of millions of dollars that you would get from letting people into those fights? you know,
unless he buys it up.
unless he does, which the rumor is he didn't, but who knows?
Yeah.
And
And that could have just been, I mean, that could have just been like a getting his foot in the door, kind of building the relationship, saying, hey, look, we want to have a good relationship with Zuck. And so we'll kind of sacrifice this. We'll show this kind of, I don't know what you call it, not really loyalty, but we'll make this gesture. All right.
Chester, yeah.
Here, come on in. Because when I saw how empty it was last weekend, I'm like, Big E doesn't live that far away. I mean, that's like a 7-hour drive to Vegas. Maybe not even that much now that I think the roads are better. Since when I used to drive up there, when I lived in Phoenix, the roads were terrible. But
definitely
now I think it's almost all like there's like interstate or something, or at
you
least
could take
better.
an hour flight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Spirit, Allegiant.
Not even Southwest. That's
59.
Yeah. I take it all the time.
Just get away. Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, I was like, why isn't Big E there? Because that's not too far, and it looks so empty. I'm like, Big E, empty seats all over the place.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but I guess that explains it.
Yeah, because they don't ever block out, especially media. They'll pick and choose who they want there, and they won't give credentials to people like Ariel Helwani because of prior situations. But they usually have their set media if nobody else there. And for that not to happen, it's like, I mean, they've had Donald Trump there. They've had, Mike Tyson, obviously. They've had all kinds of rock stars, Aerosmith, come on. Like, they've had like some of the biggest names in celebrity, but yet for Mark Zuckerberg, they clear everybody out and you can't have nobody there. And his wife, I don't know if you saw any of that. His wife was losing her shit. She had her face over her hands. She's screaming. She looks like she's going to throw up at one point in time. And it was the most hilarious thing. They have one still frame of two of the heavyweights fighting, and they were bloody, and she's like terrified. It was fucking hilarious. Afterwards, she's like, "What the hell did you bring me to?"
Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas, where you find everything. But
I bet a lot of the UFC guys don't like Zuck though.
Yeah.
So that may be why. That may be why they had to clear it out, because having their families there, it might have just been too tense for people. It's like, I can't just sit here, 2 rows away from Zuck and not go over there and yell at him about something, about censoring some of my shit.
Stop suspending my page.
Yep.
Can I get my page back?
Exactly.
My Facebook page got suspended, please.
Yep. Hey, speaking of Ariel Helwani, what's his beef with Rampage? Do you know?
Oh, they don't have a real beef.
Oh, okay.
No.
They're just messing around.
No, yeah. So it's kind of a thing they do. So Ariel thought that Rampage had beef with him at one point in time because they're always talking shit to each other when Rampage is on the air with him on his podcast and in studio. But Rampage just likes to fuck around, and he'll talk shit, and then he kind of big brothers Ariel because Ariel's like, kind of a wimpy looking type dude. And yeah, it's always been a back and forth thing. And then so Ariel kind of outed Rampage one time when Rampage said his girl was with him. And then Ariel said some shit about, oh, so-and-so, and it wasn't that girl. So then he got Rampage in trouble. And Rampage was like, I swear to God, you cost me money. You cost me my booty, my ass I was getting every night. He's like, so they did go at it for a second, but it was never like legit. And then Rampage like smacked him one time, just it was like a joke type thing. But I guess Ariel wasn't really catching or following the line of what was supposed to be happening there. So he got a little weird about it. But it's never been like, from what I understand, I've kind of seen the whole thing play out, and it's never really been like true actual beef like Ariel Helwani and Brendan Schaub had. That was like real beef. But Yeah,
Does
it's not
Brendan Schaub have some other beef going on?
he's got beef with everybody. Everybody hates
Okay.
him. Like, not everybody. I mean, he's pretty damn popular. Like, here's the thing. I listen to everything he puts out there because he has insight into things because he's friends with Rogan. Now, Rogan doesn't really tell him a lot, but at the same time, he still gets insight with stuff. And then on top of that, he knows a bunch of other fighters. He knows how things work in the UFC and with MMA. So that, I don't know, man. People just hate him. I guess because he's kind of a fuck boy. He says it himself, and he dresses like a teenager.
Are him and Theo still good, or are they starting to hit rocky times?
So Theo took a step back and walked away from King and the Sting, and I'm not sure why. Okay. Theo is weird though. He wouldn't come. Like, he moved to Nashville. He's got his issues with, struggling with being sober still. Apparently he had a porn addiction or a sex addiction. I'm not sure. They joke about it, but it's actually real. So, because somebody asked Brendan about that, and he's like, no, he really does have issues. Like he won't watch porn. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't even like talking about it. Like, he doesn't joke about jerking off and stuff like that. It's like it's a legit thing. So, but he stepped away from the King and the Sting, and they say it's not for good, but I don't know. And that's what's weird is there's always weird things like that happening with Brendan Schaub and stuff around him. Like the stuff with Bobby Lee and Kalila, like that whole thing. I don't know if you heard about all that. That was basically...
What exactly happened?
So there was a Reddit page that was started, a hate page that was started on Reddit for Brendan Schaub. And basically he found out that it was the Tiger Belly like fans that started this page. And basically it was like labeled as Tiger Belly fans or Tiger Belly podcast, something like that. And so they like, people were give like legit death threats and things like that. Now,
did they have a beef that led to that?
There wasn't really. Here's the thing. Okay, so I guess where it really started was Kalila was on her podcast with the other girls, with Annie Letterman and what's her face? I forgot the other chick. Anyway, Kalila or Annie Letterman told the story about Brendan Schaub, not saying his name, but she said a well-known comedian who thinks he's a comedian. She went like that. So they all hate on his comedy too. But she basically said that he tried to hit on her and pick her up and told her to walk with him to his truck. She basically said that he insinuated that he wanted her to give him head or something. I don't know. But this was all like while he's with this girl, like married already. So, and then Kalila said that Brendan did the same thing to her, DMing her while they're sitting at a table with their significant others. And he's DMing her saying, hey, I think you're sexy as hell. I think we should, sneak away and all this other shit. So she called him out on that. Yeah. So
Sounds
that started
like some kind of addiction.
Yeah, it started all kinds of stuff. And then the Reddit page happened, death threats. And then Brendan got investigators and had 300 pages of stuff about that proved that it was, they think it was Kalila or somebody that's really close to them, because it came from, they traced back the IP address of emails, and they found out that it was coming from a computer in their studio. So they think it was somebody that, it was a whole thing. Brendan went on their podcast and talked it out with them. I don't think that he got anywhere, but it's weird because then Bobby Lee and Kalila broke up.
Right.
So it's just a whole fucking soap opera. I don't even know. I'm talking about it like I watched the whole thing go down. I kind of did. I was following the whole thing. But, because anytime there's real beef like that, they address it on The Fighter and the Kid. So him and Brian will address it no matter what. Like the whole thing with Ariel Helwani too. So they never bring it up first. But once things go down and shit is actually said out there and put out there, then they'll go address it on The Fighter and the Kid. So
does Brandon have a beef with Andrew Schultz?
No, so they're supposed to be boys. But here's the thing. If you go on YouTube and if you click on anything that is Brendan Schaub hate related or talking shit about Brendan Schaub, you'll find all of these spin-off podcasts that use clips of his comedy, his podcast, or his any of his social media stuff, and they'll spin everything that people say about him around and turn it. And I'm like, I listened to that podcast, and the context, it's way out of context. You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And it's not because I'm a fan of his. It's because I'm looking at it from an outside perspective. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, I get why people don't like him. I don't get why people absolutely despise him. So I don't know if there's something that he does that really gets to people, like in person, but I don't know.
I didn't notice. I mean, when I watch King and the Sting, he seems like a funny dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
So
he
I
gets a
don't-
little annoying with some stuff, and I've seen these breakdown clips of how he'll just like basically parrot everything that Joe Rogan says. And I saw one from the same podcast, and I understand what they're saying. Everything Rogan would be like, yeah, it's fucking stupid, and he'll be like, yup, exactly, fucking stupid. And then he'll be like, Joe will be like, yeah, I can't believe this. It's absolutely out of this world. And he'll be like, out of this world. Like, he just, like, you know what I mean? It's like bouncing it off. And I get it, but, and they're just like, he's always on Joe's dick or whatever. So, but the funny thing is he'll take shots at Joe too, because Joe takes shots at him sometimes. He said the other day something about talking about the conspiracy. I don't know if you watched me go over that in the podcast, but the conspiracy of the Khamzat Chimaev missing weight and how the card got shuffled around for Nate Diaz and all this stuff. So he had this whole conspiracy theory of how that was kind of set up and made to be like, that's how it was supposed to be. So they just made it seem like it wasn't supposed to go down like that. They put it together and all this shit. And of course, Dana White goes, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Right. And then when they said, well, that was, he thought some other ex-fighter said it. And then they told him that it was Brendan Schaub. And he goes, makes sense now because he hates Brendan. So, but then Rogan was saying about it that basically Brendan needs a handler. He needs somebody there to be like, bro, maybe don't say this time. Like, you might not want to throw that one out there. So then, of course, everyone makes a big deal that Joe Rogan is now against Brendan Schaub and they got beef and blah, blah, blah. Said the same thing about the Bobby Lee shit. They said something that Joe said meant that he was on Bobby Lee's side. And they just take everything and blow it up, right? So the other day, Brendan goes, oh, but I'm the one that needs a handler when you guys are letting Zuckerberg come in and saying it's the greatest fucking thing in the world. And so he went off on a tangent on that. So they don't, yeah. Everybody says everybody has beef. I don't know him he's got him on his podcast. They could, when they have something to promote, they come on his podcast. All those like comics in that little group, they all, yeah. So I don't know.
Speaking of, when you said Nate, I remembered I saw something about Conor McGregor coming back. Have you seen that?
Yeah, so that's actually something I wanted to talk about because Conor's been on a Twitter rampage talking shit to everybody. The main person he's talked shit about recently was Michael Bisping, who's retired, as we all know, or if you didn't know, now you know. But him and Bisping got into a beef, and it was because Conor went on saying that all these fighters that are trying to be actors, little twerps, you don't know what you're doing. Like, I'm the king of everything, basically, just like Conor does. But yeah, I guess Bisping clapped back at him and they went back and forth. And then Conor ends it with saying, I'll smash your fucking head in or something like that. And Bisping's like, hey, listen, little man, you need to calm down. and so he addressed it on his podcast, which I listened to the other day. I didn't really get into Bisping's podcast much because it's a little tough listening to Bisping sometimes. I used to hate the guy, but I've grown to like him a lot more, and I respect the dude for what he's done in fighting. And I actually like him as a person a lot more now than I used to. Ultimate Fighter days, I fucking hated him. I hated him. He was such a douche. But anyway, he addressed it, and he does a podcast with Anthony Smith. So I heard what he addressed, how he addressed it and everything. And then Conor tweeted back at him saying, I was just acting. So he's just like proving his point. Like, I can act so well that I get, So I'm like, what are you fucking doing? But yeah, he's trying to come back. He's trying to get past that leg injury. He says that it's nothing anymore. But there's a reason why he.
Yeah, he posted a video of him doing like some sparring, and I think the title of the video was something like Conor McGregor hard kicks during spar. And watching the video, it didn't look like he was really making much contact with those kicks. But he did do an interview, and one of the questions they asked him was, who was like your toughest opponent that you had ever fought? And he said Nate Diaz.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that. Somebody broke that down in a tweet, and I guess he had they had the, you know, like some quick highlight reel of him and Nate fighting, and I was just like, I had to look it up because I was like, did he really say that? Because you know, people put this shit together and throw it out there. But yeah, I saw that he actually said it. I was like, that's cool. Conor is good with that stuff. He gets you in. He pulls you in a little bit just to make you feel like he is human. He is a good dude. But then he turns around and blows it all up. And you know, it's his persona. That's what he's known for. You know, I actually used to listen to him on Ariel Helwani's show back in the day, and Helwani always refers to it as the Blueberry Days because it was when Conor first came up into the UFC, and they were saying he's going to be the next big thing and all this stuff, and Conor's sitting there like, oh, you know, I just got done with training and I'm just sitting here, and it's like busted ass shit in the background. He's looking all, you know, half dead, poor. And he's just sitting here eating my blueberries, and he's just like eating blueberries on, and it's like the most humble shit and everything. And now he, you know, in his Lamborghini yacht with his fucking Gucci shirt wide open, or getting head from his wife that he's filming and putting on Instagram. I don't know if you saw that. That was the thing too.
I did not see that, but I will see that soon.
They don't show anything, but you see the back of her head, and you know it's his wife. So at least it's his wife, and it's not what everyone else claims, which is that he gets...
And not a pink bunny rabbit head.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. You know, they said that he was going to be back December of this year, but that's not happening. They already that's confirmed. Even Conor himself has said he's not coming back this year. He said first quarter, you know, 2023. So I guarantee they try to get him in like February, March. And that's why he's ramping up right now. You know, he's staying relevant, and to him, he's always relevant, but he's staying relevant right now. That's why he's...
And who did he say he wanted to fight? I think it was Oliveira.
Oliveira. Yeah. If he's still champ, if he's not champ though, he's not going to want to fight him. He wants to fight the champ, whoever the champ is. But the problem is
Ollie. Called him Ollie.
Yeah. Olive. I've heard him call him Olive too. It's funny. Whoever the champ is though, but you know, Oliveira's champ at 155. Like, is Conor really going to come back at 155? Have you seen pictures of him lately? He's fucking jacked, and he's huge, like huge, like his face and everything. You can't, with a beard, his face looks huge.
I think he said he wanted to fight at 170.
Right, but he's calling out all these people that are 155. So, like, what's he going to do? You know, his actual, he started at 145. Then he started like dying while trying to make that weight. So then he moved to 155. And then you know, he was double champ. So then he moved to 170 just as a, hey, I can do it. And now I don't know, what's he gonna do? His last fight was at 170 against Poirier. No, was that 155 or 170? I don't even remember. I kind of think they did it at 170 just because.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the thing. It's too hard to know.
Well, I mean, what's his record been lately? I feel like he's not winning a lot.
I think he's only won like 2 out of his last 6 fights, something like that, or 1 out of his last 4. He's just
riding the wave of fame right now.
Yeah,
you know, and the trash talking, and you know, obviously, as long as he sells pay-per-views and fills arenas, Dana will keep bringing him back. But
that's the thing. He's got superstardom behind him. I mean, he lost to Nate. He lost to Khabib. He lost to Poirier. I mean, damn. I mean, those aren't. I'm
trying to think back to his last win.
Probably Cowboy, when he beat Cowboy in a couple seconds with those shoulder punches. I don't know. Cowboy was way out the game by then. Yeah. But that sucked. I hated seeing that, especially for it to be fucking McGregor too. But I guess today's the I don't remember how many years anniversary of when Khabib beat him. I think it's 4 years, 4 years ago when that happened.
Damn.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll be curious to see if he comes back better than ever, like he says. You know, he's like, I've got a fucking weapon because he's got plates in his leg. So now he says he's got a weapon. I'm like, all right,
Well,
man. We'll see what
I
happens.
think if he loses one more time, I just don't see him. I think the draw is going to taper off because now now people are going to catch on. You know, it's like, all right, this is just your little trick
Yeah.
of using your, that whole pre-fight, staging all this stuff, all this animosity, unless he's fighting somebody on the other, like whoever his opponent is, that's going to be a big deal. Like if he's fighting for a belt, like if he comes back out of nowhere and he's fighting for a title, of course people are going to watch that. But if he, I think if he comes back and fights someone who's past their prime, I don't know if that's something I'd be interested in so much. Like
Yeah.
like you ain't beat nobody in 6 fights or whatever, or nobody good that's
Right.
in their prime. So now you're going to fight someone that's kind of past their prime. Eh,
So
I'll watch it with porn pop-ups.
exactly. So I mean, the UFC will ride it till the wheels fall off because of
Yeah.
how how much of a superstar he is. They'll ride it till the wheels fall off, and that'll just be when like Cowboy lost 6 fights in a row, but
Yeah.
Cowboy was well loved by everybody in the community and as well as all the fans. So they stuck with him and they stayed behind him, and he didn't even bring as many eyes to the fights as Connor does. So
Right.
with Connor bringing that money in, that's all that matters. And he says it all the time. And I mean, that's one thing I can't say that is untrue. He brings the money in and he brings
Yep.
the eyes in. So as long as he can keep that up and people don't get sick of him, the UFC will ride it till the wheels fall
Yeah, if the
off.
fights are good, at the end of the day, if the fight is good, you're going to be happy with your purchase. Like if you buy a pay-per-view and the fights are good, you know, it's not going to matter so much who won or lost as long as you're sitting on the edge of your seat watching that fight, watching all those fights, and they're, if you're watching, like if you buy a pay-per-view and every fight comes to a decision, you're like, then you start thinking, oh man, that kind of
I
sucks.
just spent
There,
$80
yeah,
for
there
this
went
shit.
80. You know, so that's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like in some situations there's been more decision endings, and I think a lot of it too is with certain people. Like I was saying about GSP before, but I think there's a lot of people like that it's probably going to end up in a decision because they're not closers,
Right.
and some people just they're not submission artists, they don't have knockout power, and so you're expecting a decision maybe, which it's tough to pay for decisions.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's why a lot of times they have those two title fights on a card,
Yeah.
and because they're like, please God, let one of these be exciting as shit because
Right.
we know the one is not gonna be. So let's put this one here and see if it evens out. Because I've seen too many cards where it's hyped up to be the best fight of the year, the biggest,
Yep.
baddest card of the year, and I'm like, cool, take my money. And then I'm like, just kidding, give it back because that sucked ass. And everybody at
Yeah,
my house is disappointed.
there was one not too long ago where I think one of the free fights, one of the prelims was like the best fight of the night. um
Yeah,
yeah,
that happens a
and that's
lot.
where people are like, you're like, oh well, damn, we could have just watched the prelims.
And they actually put a lot of fighters on the prelims that you don't think like why are these
Yeah.
fighters on the
Well, because
prelims?
they do. I think that in part of the contracts too, with like ESPN, you know, to so the network has something to show, maybe even to draw people in at the last minute. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this like, oh, who was the one that Dominique was just in one? He was like the main prelim fight.
Oh, Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was a really good fight.
it was.
And so then people might be thinking, oh well, shoot, we should just buy that pay-per-view and watch the rest of these.
Yeah, like if these
Um,
were this good, how is the
Yeah.
main card going to be? And then you get it and you're like, shit. It's like making a bet at the last minute and losing all your
Yep.
money.
Yeah.
I, I'm a
It always
sucker.
is a gamble. It
It
always
is.
is we've only bought a few pay-per-views ever. Um, and I think it's probably been back to the Ronda Rousey days.
Yeah.
Like when Ronda was fighting those title fights, we would buy the pay-per-views. We were buying them to see what was going to happen with her.
Yeah.
And
Because it was always something crazy. If it wasn't her finishing fights fast and
yeah,
exciting, then it was her getting finished. So
right.
that's how it
It was
ended.
not going to be no decisions.
Right. And but I mean, Rhonda had a lot behind her. That the history of that is, I mean, she deserved all that attention. I mean, I didn't like how she acted with a lot of things, or how she acted in a lot of fights towards a lot of other fighters and stuff like that. But she got women's fighting into the UFC. If it wasn't for her, it wouldn't be there.
Right.
Because I mean, maybe it would be there by now. But in the days of Dana White saying we'll never have women fighting in the UFC, and then here comes Rhonda, and she's the one that got it started. And they may have handed her that belt as she walked in the doors, but she proved that she
I don't know if
deserved
it would
it.
be. I still think that I don't think it would be where it is now without her. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody, because if you look at what she brought to the table, she had the looks, and she had that she was good. I mean, she had a signature move.
Yep.
You knew it was coming, but you couldn't stop it.
Yep.
And that's what everybody wanted to see. And yeah, like I said, that was the only time we ever paid for pay-per-views. So there's probably people, just like us, who are kind of casual fans of the MMA, and something like that is what pushed us over the edge to buy pay-per-views.
Right.
Watching her fight was worth spending that $70. Well, back then it
Definitely.
was 59.99.
Yeah, it was like
Um,
60.
yeah.
Now it's 80 because it's 75.99 and then tax. Oh my God. I'm paying for every one too. It's a day. Even when I'm not home. Like I went to Phoenix a couple weeks ago to watch the fight, the last pay-per-view. I was in Phoenix. Guess what? I still bought the fights because my kids at home
Did
wanted
you
to
watch
watch
it on
it.
your phone? Oh, I
I
thought
no
so.
no I but I did watch it on my phone somewhat because because they didn't have them on when we first got to the bar that we were going to. So I mean, yeah, it was the prelims, but I still had it watching it on my phone. And then I turned off the phone once they turned it on the TV. They got a little crazy, and I'm like getting on my phone, going back. I'm like, hold on, I got to see this again. So I'm ridiculous like that. But usually I'm at home with a bunch of people around me, and I watch them the next day anyway to review them. Especially now for this, I haven't been doing it as meticulously as I used to, but I'm going to get back into it because I want to have all of that in my brain like I used to have it.
Yeah.
Where if anybody asked me, I would just rattle off for like 10 minutes about everything. So
Yeah. Well, it's part of the investment too to have a program like this. You have to invest in that info. It's almost like material and information.
right,
This is, not only are you a fan of watching it, but it's like me when I was joking earlier about subscribing to the local newspapers, like if I was serious, and I did get a couple subscriptions, but yeah, you gotta, that's the investment, that you make so that you can turn that around and invest, then you have that material available for your conversations and, your insights so that you can speak on it, and, because if you're going to sit here and talk, have a podcast about MMA, people are going to think, expect you to have that insight. You need to be able
definitely,
to talk about it. And, a lot of stuff that happens too, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, especially when you're getting those pay-per-views. You will go like behind the scenes and stuff that they won't show you, that you won't see on highlights, or you won't see, on replays, that, like 6 months later, they'll show a replay or something.
right.
But yeah, so you get, I think that's part of your investment in having all this information, so that you can speak knowledgeably and with all those details of what happened. Plus, then you know, then you just don't look like a fraud. It's
Yeah.
like this dude ain't even watching the fights, and he's trying to talk about it.
Right.
Come on, man.
Yep. And that's the thing though, is you could actually get away with not fully watching the fights if you take in all of the other content. Like you can just see the highlights on social media. You could see some stuff on YouTube. Aside from illegal streaming, I mean, like you can see any of this stuff, and then if you just read into some of the things, you'll find out this, you'll find out that. And then if you listen to podcasts, you'll find out everything. And
Yep.
and I'm not trying to say that this is all I ever do, because I really do watch everything. But you could easily, if you wanted to take the time and do it, you could do it, and you wouldn't even have to pay for the pay-per-view, because you would know everything just by doing all this. But can you put it all together and really say what happened in the moment and how it felt, and what it was like watching that happen at live? Does that matter to people, or does it not matter to people? You know what I mean? And sometimes when you tell the story of how you saw it, like me and Patrick talked about things about in the moment, how we watched it together. And that's why I thought it was a good podcast, because we were able to discuss what actually happened, how he saw it from his perspective and how I saw it from mine, the silliness of the questions going on around us and all that stuff. So, and that's why I thought it was kind of good, to actually have somebody that I watched it alongside with and be able to talk about it that way.
There was a pay-per-view when we lived in Phoenix. We got a pay-per-view. I don't even remember who it was, because we ended up not even being able to watch it. Because what happened was, right when we bought the pay-per-view, we had pizzas delivered, Pizza Hut. And always got to throw that
Always
in.
got to go back to Pizza Hut.
And so I don't know if it was me or if it was Patty, but we set the pizzas on the stove, and that's where we were going to flip the lids open, and then everybody could come grab slices of pizza. Well, it was one of those dumb stoves where the knobs were up on the top of the like on the back wall.
Yeah.
So when we flipped the lid open, somebody bumped one of the burners, electric stove.
Oh no.
And so you got a burner on, and now we all grab slices and we head back to the living room and getting ready to start watching fights. And all of a sudden, somebody's like, "What's that smell?" And then I can see around the corner the flames glowing off the reflection of one of the kitchen windows.
Oh no.
And I mean, we are just scrambling, and we're renting this house. This ain't even our house. This is a rental.
Oh.
And so we got to put this fire out and, make sure that, because we didn't want the fire department or anything to show up. So we took care. I mean, we were able to put the fire out without, even I guess, a lot of times we take the batteries out of the smoke detectors because they get annoying, the chirping.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we had to put this fire out, and it was like, show's over,
Close
we're not
call,
even
go
gonna
home.
watch we're not even gonna watch the pay-per-view. And so yeah, then we had to spend like the next 2 days like replacing the oven hood and painting the wall and everything. But yeah, that was like one of the probably one of the last pay-per-views we got. But
do you remember what fight it was supposed to have been?
I think it was one of the Rousey fights.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
that was but hey, I remember that night we bought a pay-per-view. We just couldn't watch it. Or we just ended up not watching it because we were so freaked out.
It was like the mood's over.
Well, yeah, because I'm pissed off because I know this is a rental and I know the landlord is a dick. And it's like, I'm just stressed out about it now. Can't even enjoy anything else except for the Pizza Hut. Enjoyed the pizza. We still ate
it was real hot.
Yeah. A little crispy.
Oh shit. Anyway, all right, man. Well, you got anything else? Did you have any other anything else you wanted to talk about? Or?
I think that's it. I mean, yeah, I'm not I'm not like you, but like not even close in my MMA insights. But yeah, I'm entertained by it, and I find it interesting, and I'm curious about stuff. So like on our other podcast, these questions just pop into my head because it'll just come out of the blue, and I'm like, oh wait, hey, let me ask you a question. How's
That's
these
really how it
contracts
went
work?
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really how it went. That's
And
what I'm
so,
saying. Like, this is why I wanted to have you on because, I mean, it's effortless. I mean, everyone out there watching, this is why I enjoy podcasting with Tommy because, well, if nothing else, he'll bring something up and he may bring it up and then he's gonna sit back for the next 20 minutes while we argue about it or discuss it or question everything about it, and he'll chime in here and there and then he'll break something down for 20 minutes and be
dope.
like, yep. And then you get the tagline, dope. And then we know, okay, all right, we got to move on. He's like, either that was really dope or, all right, I'm bored. But no, this is why I wanted to have you on because I knew that you would either do some research or you would go off the top of your head for with whatever you got. And the questions you've given me the past few times were enough for me to know I wanted to have you on here. So I appreciate you. Longest going rounds podcast so far, but I'm
Oh
not
snap!
surprised. Yeah, I mean, it's what we're looking at, an hour 45. I think the highest I've done is like an hour 15.
All
But
right,
this is
setting
what we do.
records.
We always do long form, like our podcast
Oh
together that
yeah,
we do normally. Final episode, we're doing like we've gone up to 3 hours. I don't think we've gone
yeah.
past, but we've done up to 3 hours.
Not
So
yet. I thought
I
about
know.
it. I thought about maybe doing a marathon one night, and just seeing how long we can go.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna get tough for you because you're like it's almost what
Yeah,
11
that's
o'clock for
true.
you.
That's true.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so we'd either have to start real early and see how far we
yeah.
could go, or else you're gonna be up
I
all.
mean, Sundays would be possible, but then we'd have like the distraction. Right now, we'd have distractions of NFL games because
Yeah.
I do like to pop in and catch a few of the games that come on.
Oh,
Um,
you just brought up. I know my team's getting
oh yeah,
their ass whooped right
that's
now.
right. There's a game on right now.
And the Colts are playing the Broncos. And already when I left, it was 6-0. Our best player Hines, best player at the moment, was out on a concussion. He pulled a Tua the first week. He got hit. He got hit hard. He got up and did the drunk stumble. His teammates had to catch him, and then I got the notification 10 minutes later saying he's out for the rest of the game, concussion protocol. I was like,
Well,
damn.
I bet they're going to be pulling that trigger a lot
Oh
this
yeah,
after the Tua thing. They ain't going
definitely.
to take any more chances. Especially doctors. Like after
Right.
that doctor got fired,
Hmm.
all these doctors are going to be like, "Oh, take him out.
Yeah. Let's
Take him
not do
out.
that
Take him."
again because I'm not losing
They're
my
going to be
job.
going third, fourth string quarterbacks. So get your fantasy teams updated with some fourth string quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say though, if somebody's stumbling like he just like got done with a full night of binge drinking, he should be out. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna pull the trigger real quick, like on absolutely anything that
Oh
looks
yeah.
bad. So
Yep.
if you roll over the wrong way and pick your head up the wrong, whatever it is, they're gonna be like, nope, out protocol. That's what we got to do. So that sucks. But I'm sure I'm gonna get out of here. Someone was just texting me a few minutes ago about my team looking like a high school team. Thanks,
Oh,
Dylan.
snap.
By the way, if you watch this, fucker. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, thanks for doing this for this long too. I mean, I know this is what
No
we usually
doubt.
do, but I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate all the help with everything too, man. I mean, I'm being serious. Like you're the reason why I've been pushed to go this far, and then all of you guys have helped me be able to get my confidence up to do this, and just being able to learn all this stuff. This is definitely stuff I never thought I'd be into or have knowledge of doing. And I have technical background in a lot of things, but audio and video was never really part of it for the most part. So
I
uh
don't think it took too long. You were up to speed pretty quick with this. And
yeah,
that could have been your motivation. I mean, I
right,
think, you and Magix were both like super motivated for different reasons, I think. But
definitely.
but yeah, I mean, you caught on your sound, your video, and your scene. Uh, your quality was up there. It didn't take long. A couple shows, and I could tell you were serious about it. You went out and invested,
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, you came out, you got a good product now, and
thanks. I'm glad to hear that because that's always my thing is just making sure that I'm not kidding myself here. So, and I just want to keep getting better. That's really the biggest thing is to keep getting better, keep putting out better content. I never want to go backwards, even though sometimes I feel like, my show is like not as great as the last one, but it's whatever. You take the good with the bad. As long as I still got people, telling me and being real, saying that, it's good content and my everything's looking good. That's what I care about. So I'll just keep it going and we'll see where it
As
goes.
long
Like you
as you
said.
enjoy it, you keep doing it.
Yeah.
When it gets to the point where you don't enjoy it, then you do something else. But if you enjoy, I think we all enjoy, doing our podcast, even though we know, like I said, we're not in it for the views,
Nah,
but it's fun. It's good. It's good practice. And, you know, and we get to hang out. I think and Mike was saying the other day, that's his main thing is he gets to hang out with us,
definitely.
and like we kind of grew up together, and you grow apart, but this has been, and I've, even like connecting with my brother, because I'm terrible at communicate. Like I don't communicate with anybody, and doing this, like this is probably the most my brother and I have communicated ever, since like we stopped living together when we were kids,
Right.
because
That's crazy.
I'll go off. I would say we probably would communicate like once every 6 months. And a lot of that's probably my fault, like, eh, yeah, that's my
I, I
fault.
I
But
know what you're
this has
saying.
kind of
I'm
brought it
bad
back.
too.
I mean, this has brought back a connection, you
Right.
know, and not just with him, but with, Mike and Joey. Like I didn't really communicate with them much. Mike had gotten on my case about like why we weren't Facebook friends anymore. And I'm like, yeah, my account got hacked or something. I had to create a new account, but I don't know. I don't know the true story. You
Yeah.
know, Sometimes I go through my Facebook and I'm like, I ain't talked to you in 5 years. So boop, boop.
And it's funny because
But
we do podcasts together, so we talk at least once a week, if not twice. Most of the
yeah,
time, it's at least twice a week, and that's because we just want to make sure we do the podcast. So, but yeah, we're not like friends on all the social media stuff. I mean, I don't like you and Magic's. How I was gonna message you the other day individually, and then I was like, wait a minute, we're not actually friends on Facebook. I'm like, I don't know if Tom really uses Facebook that way though.
I only
Yeah.
use Facebook. Really, the only reason I was using Facebook for the past few years was because that's how my dad would communicate with me.
Oh yeah.
Like my dad messages us through Facebook. And so it's the only reason I still ever used Facebook. Because if you look on my timeline, I haven't made a post, I haven't liked a post, I haven't done anything on a timeline kind of, using the Facebook timeline for anything.
Yeah.
Uh, but, you know, doing Messenger, yeah, that's all I use it for is Messenger now. So,
That's funny.
but I do want to set up a channel for all of us. I think we just combine the channel
Yeah.
and the group chat for all of us, and then just do it there. Because
Especially
I
if we're
think
gonna keep
Royal
up.
Rumble, I think we can keep that going. I liked it, and people can just come and go. It's like because we know Joey's going to bounce it an hour, and
Yeah,
if
it's
my
like
brother wants, if my brother wants to jump in, that's cool too. But people don't have to commit to as long as we might want to go.
yeah. And you know what? Sometimes I'm like, I'll jump in and be like, I'm only gonna be here for an hour. I can't do it.
Yep.
But then we get stuck and we just like it's like the other night you said, okay, that's it. I need to go.
Then
I'm tired.
another 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Like, oh my God. I was all right, I'm dying now. I was about to be like, I'm out. And thankfully
Yep.
you were like, okay, because you're the one that runs that stream. So when you say you're good, I'm like, okay, I don't have to say anything because he's out. So that means we're done.
And
But
that's part of the pressure of being the host too. It's
yeah,
like, well, you can't just bounce because then it's over.
right. Then
So if
that's good,
there's
but
some
that's
good
good.
conversation going, yeah, if there's good conversation going, you don't want to be like the fuddy duddy, and it's like, all right,
Right.
y'all, I gotta bounce. So
It is what it is. It's all in good fun. And like you said, we may not
yeah,
do it for the views there. I hope to get more views here, and I'm not pushing for it like crazy, but I do push for it a little bit. I have trouble asking. That's the thing. But I have to do it. And because I do want to, if I can gain some traction with this and get it to be a little more well known and, maybe get myself to a point where maybe I could interview a fighter just for my own sake. Like that would be badass. Like that'd be fucking cool.
Yeah.
So just for the fact of doing that, but if I never get there, it's not a big deal. I do this because I enjoy it, like you said. And until I stop enjoying it, that's what I'm going to keep doing. And I'm just hoping that people stick with me. And, the new people that find out that I have a podcast are interested and maybe watch it, tell a friend. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because we have to say that. Being on YouTube, you have to say that, right?
Right.
At some point
It's
in
in the
time.
contract.
It
Yeah,
definitely is.
It's in the terms of service.
You're not doing it right if you're not saying those three things. But yeah, and then also I got to throw in our social media, well, mine, because Tommy doesn't. Yeah, I got Going Around's podcast
stuff
everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And then obviously, if you want to listen to audio only, you can do that on all these platforms that you see here in the middle. For everyone just listening, you already know where to go because you're just listening. But this will be out tonight on all these platforms. I always upload it right away. I'm meticulous about that, and I hate it when I don't do it. And so far, I haven't. It's just taking a while on some occasions. But anyway, our other podcast that you can see myself and Tommy
I'm gonna have to step up my little marketing game here.
I got to keep it going, But yeah, we're both on the Final Episode podcast. You can find that on the Murd YouTube channel. And then you can find Tommy along with Magix, who both do the final episode with us on Enough to Be Dangerous on Twitch Tuesday nights. So we go on what? Well, we're doing the Royal Rumble now, which we should say something about what that actually is. And that is a combination of the final episode and Enough to Be Dangerous. So
like a mashup.
Yep. Royal Rumble. That's why we called it the Royal. I don't even know who came up with that, but that was pretty dope. I like it. So all of us just jump in and bullshit. And last night we did our first one. I think it went pretty well. We were only missing Christo, but maybe I'll have to jump over and see if I can help him out with something on getting that.
Yeah, and I found another laptop here I was going to start working on.
Oh.
This one's an HP because I think I was going to send him a MacBook, but I think the learning curve on an Apple is a little weird.
Oh yeah.
On an Apple laptop, it's very different. Like you don't have like File Manager and Windows and the Start button. So
Right.
this is just an HP I had. It's pretty new too. What is that? This one's an i5. So
there you go.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna try to get that working.
That'd be badass because I'm sure he misses it. He's always excited when he does jump on, and he's always very grateful when he jumps off and says thank you guys and stuff. And I'm like, dude, thank you, because if it wasn't for him, I might not even be podcasting. So Christo, I love you, brother, because you got me in this, and I thank you guys all the time.
Allies.
Yeah, I thank you guys all the time for keeping me going with being involved and learning new things. So yeah, check out our other podcasts. And you got anything else to plug, Tommy?
Catch me at Westglen High School Saturday nights if you're in 9th through 12th grade at Westglen High School. And then we'll do the after hours party at the New Baden American Legion from midnight to 4 a.m. Cash bar, bitches.
All right. Sounds good, man. Well, thanks again. And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you're here and if you're watching this later, thanks for coming and checking it out.
Thanks for having me. See you later, YouTube.
Later.